Hey everyone, my name is Wedge, and Happy New Year! Oh yeah, woo, awesome! Regardless of what day it is, Oath of the Gatewatch spoilers are not stopping, so we're not stopping either. Hope you've enjoyed our spoiler series up to this point, and if you do, that like button, let's celebrate the new year by hitting that, yeah! Deceiver of Form is 6 of anything and 1 colorless for an 8/8 Eldrazi. Holy text box. At the beginning of combat on your turn, reveal the top card of your library. If a creature card is revealed this way, you may have creatures you control other than the Deceiver become copies of that card until end of turn. You may put that card on the bottom of your library. Okay, so beginning of combat, you scry one. If it's a creature card, your entire board becomes copies of that creature besides the Deceiver. This thing's insanity, pure insanity. Omnath and Standard, Legend Rule, they all die and you probably insta-kill someone. Just have enough Scions to produce copies. Deceiver of Form just doesn't even make sense to me. Commander, Pathbreaker of Ibex, this is like Rite of Replication for days. World decks for sure, Master Biomancer of Biovisionary for an auto win at the end of turn. I can't even right now. Deceiver of Form may be my favorite card spoiled in the set so far. Stoneforge Masterwork is 1 of anything for an artifact equipment that equips for 2 of anything. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. First things first. I get that this is supposed to be for allies, but imagine how huge Eldrazi Scions can get. That's hilarious. Second, tribal decks for days. Equipment decks for days. Basically what I'm saying is that this card was printed specifically for Kembaka Region Commander players. Beyond that, Goblins and Standard have gone unnoticed for a while now. This is a pretty cheap equipment, just saying. Those little menaces, you can't trust them with the pile driver and Standard. Fair warning. Oath of Nissa is 1 green for a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature, land, or a planeswalker card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast planeswalker spells. Remember yesterday when we saw Oath of Jace and I said they were really forcing Super Friends? Yeah, Oath of Nissa brings that to a whole other level. Not only do you get a 1-mana cantrip that digs 3 cards deep, or basically, ponder, you also get perfect mana fixing for planeswalkers. It's honestly like they're shoving Super Friends down our throats. Because you're playing green, I'd say there's a decent chance you'll reveal a walker, creature, or land, so I'm not worried there at all. Super Friends, right? Sphinx of the Final Word is 5 colorless and 2 blue for a 5/5 Sphinx with flying and hexproof, and it can't be countered. Instants and sorcery spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities. Well, isn't this just a giant blue creature? It's super blue, hexproof, flying, can't be countered. Some of your spells can't be countered. It's super blue. The weird thing is, I'm not sure it has a place right now. It's really expensive, even for a control deck, and by the time you get to 7 mana, you've likely already stemmed the bleeding with your opponent's spells. No real need to have counter protection at that point. Is he a finisher? Could be. Dragonlord Ojutai seems better, Linvala seems better. My favorite place for this? Sideboard in a control deck for the mirror match. Games are going to take forever, and once you drop the Sphinx, especially post-board, how are they going to deal with it? Like heck, they'll keep their sweepers in. This Sphinx can hose opposing control strategies. It's pretty funny. There were some rumblings about its playability in Legacy and Reanimator or Dredge, but the fact is that it's not Inkwell Leviathan, which would be the card it's replacing. It's just not as good. Hissing Quagmire is a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap it to add 1 black or green mana to your mana pool. You can also pay 1 of anything, 1 black and 1 green, and it becomes a 2/2 elemental with Death Touch until end of turn. Alright, this might be the best land in the new cycle or close to it. We're talking about a land card that straight up threatens the board with its existence. Players, at least when you have the mana open, aren't going to want to swing into you when they can see you have a Death Touch creature. They just won't do it. At worst, even if you never need to activate it, it forces your opponents to play around it in some way. That's value in and of itself. I really like this for both Standard and Modern, actually. Don't underestimate the power of value lands. Wandering Fumarole is the last man land in the cycle. It's a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap it to add 1 blue or 1 red to your mana pool. You can also pay 2 of anything, 1 blue and 1 red, and until end of turn it becomes a 1/4 elemental with the ability to pay 0 and switch its power and toughness until end of turn. I was not expecting this ability. I expected a loot ability on combat damage to a player or something like that. This is incredibly versatile, huge fan. It can either block really well, granted for a lot of mana, or it can beat face for 4 damage. That's huge. Now, Because damage no longer goes on the stack, moving it from offense to defense and back again isn't as effective as you might think, so it isn't actually a 4/4, but it's pretty close most of the time. I love it for standard and modern play. This is probably better than the Quagmire, honestly. You can't beat versatility, dang. Today didn't bring us as many cards as we're used to, but if you're disappointed with what we did get, you're impossible to please. Between the crazy Deceiver, the new very powerful creature lands, and the really weird Oath cycle, there has to be something you like. Let me know in the comments which cards you are excited for and which cards fell a bit short of the mark for you. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Remember, there aren't usually any spoilers on weekends, but we will be back this weekend with more videos for you, so stay tuned. Spoilers will be back on Monday. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Oath of the Gatewatch spoiler information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Wow.